The culture of overwork creates a situation where people daily have to choose.
Food is really important as a cultural aspect. We can find a lot of our identity around what we eat.
Eat a Snickers.
Why?
You get a little cranky when you're hungry.
There's a lot of bad information on the internet. The trick is to sort of look for stuff that's a little bit more credible.
Is butter a carb?
Yes. You need to look at that ingredient list. There are hidden forms of sugar.
Literally food coloring that gives people diseases.
The flagship is diabetes, heart disease, and obesity.
It's not like you can have a surgery and it'll resolve your diabetes.
It's hard to predict the future, but if I had to take a guess, it's gonna be rough.
Food. It's what humans need to fuel their bodies and keep them alive. When humans first became settled agriculturalists and started growing food, they developed an intimate knowledge and close involvement with food health.
I believe health starts in the womb.
I believe health starts with the mind.
I'd probably say childhood.
Physical health.
Well-being.
Health is a really broad concept.
However, in today's modern world, many people are far removed from the sources of food they eat on a daily basis.
We've become more feeders than eaters.
You can end up overeating.
You've got a food industry that's duping you every day.
We're lucky to have nutrition experts. All that we have to do is to eat all of the diet that they plan for us.
As humans have evolved and society's grown, the once close relationship with food has now switched to a consumer focus. Bombarded with an overwhelming amount of food choice, health trends, and diets, confusion around having a healthy relationship with food and how to properly nourish one's body has become increasingly more complex.
What we learn in our house really does affect our lives.
People's behavior definitely has an impact on their health, especially when it comes to both diet and exercise and just overall health and wellness.
But first, we must understand how we got here. In the early 1900s, most Americans either grew their own food or bought it from small local shops and markets. Almost all food was produced and consumed locally. But after the 1920s, society changed, and so did the food industry.
It's one of those things that we can look back on and be like, oh my gosh, look what happened.
Between the years of 1942 and 1945, during the course of World War II, approximately 6 million women entered the workforce, forever altering the lifestyle of the American household.
The men came back from World War II. The women had to make some money and they had to go out and work.
Both, partners in a household are working full time. That limits the amount of time available to cook at home.
Even bigger changes came about after World War II, when more women began to be incorporated into the American workforce, and the baby boom brought an explosion in the U.S. population.
Families changed, where now maybe one or two are now of the parents are working.
Convenience was wanted. The food industry saw an opportunity.
And then processed bread came out.
Sunbeam bread is packed with energy values you need to keep you raring to go.
White bread, it could sit on the countertop for a while because it has all these preservatives.
Corn, wheat, soy. We started industrialization, so we could take these crops and we could kind of process them.
As industrialization boomed, processed food items became the norm in many American households, and they soon filled store shelves. Consumers quickly became unaware of how food was being manufactured.
With regards to how food is manufactured and processed, I'm not super aware.
I'm not super aware.
I'm not super aware.
I am not very aware of how food is manufactured, processed.
I don't think Americans are that conscious of how food's processed. I mean, unless you work in one of those factories, it's not something that's on our radar.
As food companies continue to push limits, convenience seemingly overshadowed all thoughts of nutritional value.
TV dinners went into the oven, but those were expensive. But how novel was that you could have a whole meal coming to you that you don't have to prepare?
And talk about easy.
The fast food craze rose quickly in the 1950s, although it had its start in 1921 with the first White Castle restaurant. Eating on the go quickly spread across the nation over the next few decades.
The pressure's really been on to develop foods that just appeal to people at the lowest cost, and they're not developed based on the healthiest products.
As more Americans craved the taste of convenience, fast food companies continued to push for more consumption.
Dollar value meals, it's so much cheaper.
Fast food was convenient, and it was also a marketer's dream. One could create brand loyalty and high consumer demand while ignoring nutritional value.
And we started to make box mixes, jellos, different potato chips, candy bars, corn, created high fructose corn syrup, which then went into sugar sweetened beverages.
To satisfy society's demands, food production shifted from being solely a source of providing nutrition to consumers to a means of marketing and creating brand loyalty. In the 1950s, women more often than not were the homemakers in American households.
When you can get quick, easy meals, right, that became very convenient.
Brands like Betty Crocker, developed by General Mills, created relatable characters with her empathetic and real personality. She was someone women could relate to. The thinking went, if it's good enough for Betty Crocker, it's good enough for my family. To modernize cooking practices, some products were even marketed as homemade, even though they were pre-cooked and packaged.
We've gradually seen a decrease in cooking skills, a decrease in just families eating around the table that we've seen have had detrimental effects.
Advertisers created marketing campaigns that focused on Americans' increasingly faster lifestyles, creating the illusion that these convenient foods would lead to a happier life.
Today's world, kids are all scattered. By the time they're moving around, they're running them off in carpooling, and everybody's just scattered all over.
As marketing continued to reach more and more Americans, the 1980s would become a pivotal era for media influence. In the 1980s, print, radio, and television marketing continued to be the main sources of advertising to reach consumers with different health trends, and would continue so into the 90s. However, in the new century, there would be another powerful force and influence to reach consumers: the internet.
We're so inundated with the television and so inundated with the internet.
If you were watching TV, there are commercials.
Marketing, advertising will determine not necessarily whether you like to eat it, but whether it's cool for you to eat that.
With multiple marketing outlets promoting food products, food, beverage, and restaurant companies spent almost $14 billion per year on advertising in the United States. More than 80% of this advertising promotes fast food, sugary drinks, candy, and unhealthy snacks. Nearly $2 billion in 2022 on marketing was aimed specifically at children.
And in the US, there's a lot of marketing to children.
Kids, after seeing these sort of commercials, would go into the store and they'd ask their parents to pick up that food.
Captain Crunch, Cocoa Puffs, they're trying to grab that little kid in the cart saying, "Mommy, I want that."
On television alone, children are exposed to around 13 food advertisements each day, while teenagers see approximately 16. 9 out of 10 of these ads promote products high in salt, sugar, and fat.
We get a lot of our information from those outlets. The question is it accurate?
With the food industry investing heavily in marketing, companies are going to great lengths to ensure that consumers remain loyal and keep returning for more.
Through my experience, the biggest misconception is labeling.
You know, when there are ingredient lists on the labels, that manufacturers can get away with certain tricks.
Like on the front package, even like some of that labeling, yeah, there's no trans fats. I'm glad there's no trans fats, but there's a lot of other fats.
Until the late 1960s, nutritional information on food packaging was shockingly low. As the number of processed and packaged foods increased in the market, consumers would eventually demand better nutritional labeling.
So it's important for consumers to look at the food label and also read the ingredient, because that's truly what's inside the product.
Studies indicate that consumers tend to trust front of package claims, considering them to be endorsed by the government, and use them as a means to overlook the nutrition facts panel.
So the labels don't necessarily mean all the things that they say they mean under government regulations.
Food labels sometimes use ambiguous terms for sugar, fat, oils, and other ingredients, which may make it difficult for consumers to fully understand the processed ingredients present in their food. Experts have mentioned that labels using words such as organic, natural, or additive-free made the product seem healthier to consumers.
Sometimes we tend to focus on these slight nuanced differences between like processed sugar and raw sugar, when in reality, some of that is marketing, some of that is just we want people to think it's healthier, but it's still sugar.
Due to the overwhelming amount of food choices and misinformation surrounding unhealthy eating, many people nowadays find themselves confused on how to purchase the best food products. Feeling lost, individuals resort to the dietary patterns taught by their parents.
Growing up, like my mom, both of us would just like grab snacks and start eating.
I always was looking for leftovers after dinner.
We were always allowed to eat whatever we wanted, but in moderation.
The growing prevalence of health issues associated with food consumption, such as heart disease, diabetes, and obesity, can be partly attributed to a limited understanding of nutrition and healthy eating habits.
We see higher intakes of fast food.
My favorite fast food is Chick-fil-A. I'm a Taco Bell girl, what can I say?
I have to go with Wendy's.
Chick-fil-A, it's a no-brainer.
In the early 2000s, restaurants started implementing menu labeling practices to promote intentional food choices. Yet, research indicates that calorie consumption continues to rise.
Look at the way the Western diet has moved. There's a lot of refined foods.
Nearly half of those calories come from just two food groups: flours and grains, and fats and oils.
These foods in a whole are higher in calories, not as nutrient dense. That also is contributing to obesity.
We've gone from fat acceptance to fat celebration.
As a result, obesity affects 1 in 5 children and more than 1 in 3 adults in the United States.
Our bodies have a lot more mechanisms to store energy because we didn't used to have rapid access to all the food sources that we do now.
We are spending billions of dollars to decrease childhood obesity, and it's not going down, it's going up.
Keeping up with today's lifestyle and fast-paced society, many Americans find themselves having high levels of stress. To cope, individuals often turn to food, especially large portions, as a source of comfort.
We see connections between the psychological aspects of eating, right? I'm stressed, so I don't care anymore, I just want to eat the whole container of ice cream, right? It's comfort, it's comforting to us, right? It's almost like drugs are comforting, or alcohol, or a cigarette. Like some of us go to food.
The chemical dopamine is the so-called pleasure center of the human brain. Studies have shown foods high in fat and sugar increase dopamine levels by 200%, making it similar to the rise observed in nicotine and alcohol consumption.
I don't trust anything that I see on the labels.
According to the World Health Organization, over the past 4 decades, there has been a significant increase in both overweight and obesity rates. With the rapid growth of the food industry, regulators have faced challenges keeping up with advancements, such as the use of more and more processed foods, preservatives, and growth-modified organisms, or GMOs. A bitter truth that some experts believe is that food companies prioritize profits over consumer health.
I think there are things that have harmful ingredients maybe on our shelves in the United States because it's money.
You're seeing this increase in highly processed foods, and with that we're seeing increases in chronic disease and obesity across the globe.
They're keeping them sick. That's how the marketing ploys of the companies are affecting our future and our health.
With the increase in food consumption and the decline in the quality of food, many are concerned about the potential for unhealthy habits in future generations.
It really does sort of comment on sort of our society in general.
It is the sad truth.
Today, Americans find themselves at a crossroads of food health. To continue purchasing ultra-processed and less nutrient food, or to make a stand and demand healthier products for future generations.
Statistically, if you're obese, you're going to have a shorter life, right? And we have more than 30% of our population is obese.
When you look at some of the leading causes of death in Americans today, it is diseases that can be preventable in many cases.
These issues are certainly relevant and a major concern for our society today. While there are undoubtedly significant challenges that need to be addressed, there are also many opportunities for positive change and progress. Fast food has become more popular and convenient due to marketing and the growth of large chains. However, it is important to recognize that healthy food can be affordable too, despite the perception that it is expensive. By making informed choices, it is possible to eat healthier on a budget.
I believe you can eat healthy, but you have to know how to do it.
It's a lot of willpower. It's mindset.
I think the best way to go about purchasing food is try to get things as natural as you can.
It's small steps.
The human body is a complex and remarkable system. Given that each person's body is unique, it is crucial to understand what works best for you. Every diet claims to be the best, but there is no perfect diet. The most effective diet is one that provides a wide range of nutrients, is enjoyable, and can be sustained without a feeling of deprivation.
I would hope that it doesn't take major life crises or challenges for folks to sort of embrace that.
Listening and being mindful eating. Actually knowing, am I hungry? Am I full? And then respecting that.
If we fall, it's okay. Just get back up.
There's not always a right or wrong answer, but there's a best answer for the moment.
I am hopeful. I'm very hopeful.
Food is seen as more than just a means of survival. Food is considered to be multidimensional, as something that shapes us, our identities, and our cultures, and in the end, our society.
Being able to accept that and giving oneself grace as well, I think is really kind of the key.